The fact checkers.
Attention, people of Earth, I have an important announcement to make.
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Good morning.
Okay.
Tape deck alert. Tape deck alert.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
You betcha. Good morning, folks, and a double good morning to you. I had a good night's sleep last night. I'm de-checking the opening sequence because that was a series of audio clips tied together. This is like a self-produced show. I don't have any assistants or anything like that, you know. It's just me alone. So
This is insane.
yeah, it is insane. It's 4:46 a.m., 10 January 2022. Here we go. The crazy year. The year everybody is like not feeling too good about. I'm just drinking coffee black today. And today's show is going to be a little bit different. And as you can see from the title card that I have on the screen, the internet is broken, especially when it comes to health, the morning show. And we're kind of going to focus on that and a few other things. You know, like you can't trust anything you read online, which has been an ongoing theme. And it's like, I'm typing in the chat right now, who fact checks the fact checkers, right? Post that thing. My first one was, what did you have for breakfast today? What I had was some oats. And I looked on the bottom. I had some on the base of it. I should show I think that's what I'm going to do later on this year, because I'm not going to just sit here and do these 2-hour, things. I mean, I'm not saying this show's going to run that long, but I mean, I'm just not going to do that for the entire year like I did last year. But I think I'm going to be more hands-on in showing you things, especially when it comes to what I do out in the old backyard and maybe even the attic, the reconstruction project on that. But a lot about food and survival and whether I make it through this year and get through this, whatever this gallbladder thing, flare up, that I've been talking about, whether I could survive that without surgery, So the internet is broken, especially when it comes to health, right? And man, ain't it the truth? And I'll give you some specifics, and I'll start out with something that this is something from Google that I pulled off yesterday. I mean, no need wasting our time going there. You could do the same search and you'll come up with the same thing. Now look at this, and look, I'm using gallbladder gallstones as an example here. Don't get freaked out or anything weird like that. You have to have, if you're trying to make a point, you have to have something that we're using as a demonstration, okay? All right. So in this instance, we're just going to talk about how, a health issue that is out there that is rampant in the United States, by the way, rampant. It's a very common surgery they perform, and they cut before the main treatment for it is take it out, right? And I've watched groups of surgeons, I guess you could see my face while I say this. I've watched videos of groups of surgeons stand there, in their scrubs in a hospital, obviously, and you could see nurses walking in the background. Now, these guys, there's different groups of people like this. They do channels, I guess, that just make side money or something. I don't know what it is. And, and they're all, they all just badmouth anybody that talks about diet, alternative treatments, anything like that. Their idea is that's nonsense. You just cut it out, right? It's the all cut it out's a solution. It's like with cancer. Cut it out or give them radiation, right? Forget about, the 50 other potential alternatives, that there are, or putting time and effort into this idea. Who knows, injecting it directly with hydrogen peroxide or something, something only a surgeon can do. But I mean, no, they don't care about any other options. The idea is cut it out or, dose them with radiation. And that's how these surgeons are. That's what the gallbladder thing is. It's very common surgery. Last time I was in the hospital one time for something else, and they were trying to take his gallbladder out. They make money off of this stuff. I'm not saying that they don't, in some instances, save lives by doing it, because could be a serious and it could be deadly if it gets out of control. But here was a question I asked: is turmeric good for gallstones? And you pronounce it turmeric, but there's an R in there, so it's technically turmeric, I guess. But it's turmeric. That's the ongoing pronunciation. So this is on one page, okay, top to bottom. I just opened up where people also ask. There's a little arrow there, and it faces down, and if you click it, it faces up and shows you what's under there. But the main result, here's what Google says. So when you go to Google, if you say what's the capital of Pennsylvania, it will say right in that spot. It would be like Philadelphia, but it's not. It's Harrisburg. That's basically what's going on here right now. That's how screwed up these things are. So Google says, when you say, is turmeric good for gallstones? It says for gallbladder health, turmeric can stimulate bile formation to ease gallbladder emptying. Incorporating turmeric into your diet can also reduce inflammation and gallbladder pain. Turmeric can be made into a tea to drink daily for pain. Curcumin is also available as an oral supplement. Curcumin is the main ingredient in turmeric. So basically, they're saying turmeric is good for your gallbladder, right? And gallbladder health, which gallbladder health means not getting gallstones. Now, if you go right below and see, people also ask, is turmeric bad for gallstones? Gallbladder problems. Turmeric can make gallbladder problems worse. Do not use turmeric if you have gallstones or a bile duct obstructions, bleeding problems. Taking turmeric might slow blood clotting. This might increase the risk of bruising and bleeding in people with... So turmeric, according to Google, in other words, their number one response, the one that they respond with, is telling you turmeric can stimulate bile formation to ease gallbladder emptying. All right. And then below, they're telling you turmeric can make gallbladder problems worse. Now, what do you believe? One's Healthline, one's WebMD. They're about the same type of sites. Okay. Neither of them are Johns Hopkins, the Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic. But that said, if you would go to places like the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, even Cleveland Clinic, some of these hospitals that have very good reputations for and high success rates in operation, and rated high as far as healthcare institutions are, medical institutions. Well, everybody's into the internet game now. Okay? Everybody. I forgot to turn my lights on. Give me a second here. I can find my switches. We're on the air, right?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I don't want to be a downer or anything like that, so we'll go through this, but this also has to do with some of the ongoing issues that we deal with in this show. So before I jump in, and this isn't going to be about gallstones specifically. Like I say, I'm using that as the example because I have firsthand experience with it, and I've dove deep into the topic. All right. So I would say, I don't think anyone else could say they have dove more deeply into the topic of the gallbladder and gallstones than I have, as far as utilizing the internet and trying to find information. But this feeds right in directly. I'm pouring some more coffee in my cup. That's if you're wondering what I'm doing, looking down. And like I say, I'm just drinking black coffee today. Well, anyway, so, but just as a quick aside to get it out of the way, and so I don't lose it, out of sight, out of mind. So social media platforms have, they fact checked everything. Some actually have what they call third-party fact checkers, but they're really not. And nobody's fact checking the fact checkers, right? And in some instances, and this has been brought out, the companies there are a lot of companies that have got into the business because it's lucrative now. They're rather sketchy organizations. In fact, one of the large ones, this was several years ago, was literally like a husband and wife working off their couch in their living room. And they got bought out, and somehow they were tied into Facebook or something like that. I don't know the entire full story of how that evolved and what the company has become now. But that part is positively true. That's exactly how one of them started. Okay? They were considered fact checkers. But nobody fact checked them. Right? And so when people are banned from social media or, freedom of speech is curtailed or whatever, the terms of service are created, there's rules of the game. All right. There's no one fact checking that. It's something to think about. And so in a broader scale, we know that, right? From social media experience, from what you see, you watched your friends or you watch people you follow get, basically kicked off of some platform for saying something or retweeting or reposting, or in some instances, I understand on YouTube, some people have had problems just because people had left comments in their comment section that they didn't have, especially people that, you might have gotten 1,000 comments and, you can't even, what are you supposed to spend your whole life reading all the comments, So they didn't get to that comment in time, and someone had something that was against the term of service in a comment, and then they put that against the, the person who did the video. But they won't, put some kind of video that is, break some kind of, government law, constitutional law, and put that against the social media platform, you see. So who's fact-checking the fact-checkers? Who's fact-checking Google? No one. It's internal, right? These are the gods of, the gatekeepers of free speech, the gatekeepers of information, the gatekeepers of what is, their facts, right? And that's a reality. Case in point, like I say, in this example here. So if you wouldn't have bothered to, like the people also ask, if you wouldn't have bothered, I wouldn't have bothered to actually click on that thing, that arrow. That other one, the one saying turmeric is bad, wouldn't have come up at all. Okay? And I have countless examples of this, countless examples. And so it beckons the question is, so what was I doing? I was putting a lot of turmeric in my food because I noticed, this thing wasn't going away. And so then I started to dive deeper. And suddenly I found these contradictions. And yesterday, so I was primarily using the internet. I was going to websites. I was going to the WebMDs, but I was going to doctor sites. I was going to these people who said it was a doctor from Johns Hopkins or the Mayo Clinic. But yesterday I was pretty bored in the afternoon because I was just sitting around drinking water, trying to flush out my system, right? For example, I'm drinking a cup of black coffee right now, okay? Which is nice and hot, by the way. And there, it seems that there are more people saying coffee is good for your gallbladder or gallstones or passing them or eliminating them or whatever. But there are places that say avoid drinking coffee. There are some places that say it's okay, to have a drink, glass of wine, a couple beers, 2 glasses of wine for men, 2 beers for a man, couple drinks for a man. I guess they mean a couple of drinks, so it could even be two glasses of whiskey, not double shots or anything, but I mean, 2 mixed drinks, 2 beers, whatever. And for a woman, it's like 1. That seems to be the general internet consent. Remember, I'm not giving medical advice here. This is criticism. Like all my shows, this is criticism. Okay? I'm telling you, these are examples of what you find. So you can go and you will go to some sites and they will say that. And, don't take my word for it. Go check it out. You're watching this on a computer. Open up another window and see how many drinks can I have if I have, gallbladder problems or gallstones. Gallbladder problems are basically gallstones. You get inflammation. This is the problem. Anyway, but there are other sites that, say avoid alcohol, avoid coffee. So one is telling you that maybe a drink or 2 is actually good. Not necessarily good, but, well, yeah, good. And other sites that saying, yeah, a cup or 2 of coffee is good. And others that'll say avoid alcohol, avoid coffee. You saw the turmeric. Turmeric is good for a healthy gallbladder. And another one saying, oh, it's bad. And in some instances, it's 50-50 split, or in some instances, the ones that say it's good outnumber the ones that say it's bad. But still, you have the ones that say it's bad. So the internet is, like I say, the internet is broken. And I'm saying, especially when it comes to health, because I'm using that as the example today, to pick on. But when it comes to everything, I mean, we all know Wikipedia no longer functions as an encyclopedia. It's like if you are looking up something so simplistic, in other words, if you never paid attention in school and there was some basic thing you didn't know, right? Is the country of Spain located in Europe? Right? Right. Okay. Yeah. Wikipedia will probably say Spain is a country, and will probably show a map and where it's located and that it's part of the EU. Okay. But I mean, apart from something like that specific and that commonsensical that you should know. I mean, you should learn. That's the problem with the schools now. They're graduating people who basically can't function in society, are functionally illiterate, so they don't even know. Remember, it was reported on one of the major networks when the La Palma volcano was going off, which we were covering on a daily basis, which fortunately for those people and for that island, it's dried up. It's calmed down now. So, for now, the danger seems to be over. Seems to be. But at the time, it was pretty scary because that was shooting up, way up in the sky, all these flames, like it was like gas jets. It was crazy. That's why I was covering it. Well, one of the major networks had said that reported that La Palma was in the country of Spain, in Spain, right? In its territory, within its, borders. When in reality, La Palma is actually an island off the coast of Africa that is basically a territory of Spain, So these are people. This is, who fact checks them, and this was put over the air, and so children are sitting there watching the nightly news like their idiotic parents. And as far as they know, that happened. Well, the next night or whenever, if they retracted it, that child may have been up in their room listening to some music on their Beat headphones. They never heard a retraction. So, while this is maybe a harmless example, that child will grow up and never know that La Palma is an island. Now, that may sound foolish and insignificant, but you have to understand, if they do it with turmeric, which can literally cause the death of a person. See, in other words, if someone's thinking they're doing the right thing, if I'm thinking, I'm going to max dose, not overdose, but max dose turmeric in all my foods to keep inflammation down, right? Because it's good for the gallbladder health. And meanwhile, actually, it's bad for my gallbladder, making the problem worse. Well, a bad gallbladder, if you get a stone that, dislodges, gets lodged in and blocks your bile duct or something like that, you could be facing a deadly situation. Or if it blocks apparently going to the pancreas, there's all kinds of problems that are life-threatening when it comes to gallbladder and gallstones. Not to mention quality of life in general as well, because it affects the bile, which allows you to properly, go to expel things from your body. And so, this is no joking matter, okay? So, like I said, the one on the bottom is not visible. Okay? That one you have to click on. And initially I didn't, because a couple of weeks ago because I'm a turmeric person. I always eat turmeric because turmeric does have a lot of anti-inflammatory. That's a fact, and there have been tests, and studies on that it has anti-inflammatory properties. But just because I was diving deeper, I decided to click on the little arrow, and suddenly I discover it's bad. And then I started to dig deeper, and I was finding sites that were saying it was good, sites that were saying that it was bad. So then yesterday, like I said, I was bored. So, I wasn't bored, but it was raining. Water was leaking into my front bedroom, into my back bedroom. Luckily, I had, containers to capture it. I had to keep going up into the attic and draining water, opening the window and dumping the buckets of the water that I would pull out of these collection containers, but it was still getting in. It's gotten into my ceiling. I'm going to have to knock out plaster and it was a nightmare. So anyway, I was sitting in a chair on the second floor, basically, what am I supposed to, trying to keep, because it was an all-day rain, right? It started raining in the middle of the night. It didn't stop raining until late in the afternoon, towards the evening. It was insanity. And we had snow, previously, and the temperature was in the 40s. So the snow's melting and it's pouring down rain. So it's like a recipe for total disaster, So I'm sitting there, what am I going to do? And meanwhile, I feel a little pain in my side here, a pain in my lower back, which are basically the telltale signs of gallstones or some kind of gallbladder issue, right? So I decide, well, I'm upstairs now looking at my TV, and I have the Fire TV thing, so I've YouTube on that. So I'm going to do a search on YouTube, gallstones, gallbladder, blah, 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 the full works. I'm going to dive in and find videos by doctors. And I found videos by doctors. And most of the doctors were saying, cut it out, right? So, and I went to, and what a lot of people don't realize is, like I say, I know there's people out there that watch woo-woo videos, right? So-called, I don't even want to say the word, but conspiracy theory type things. Okay? And that's fine. That's entertainment for some people. And every now and then it's like somebody who wants to hear a ghost story. It's not true, right? It's a ghost story. It's like people watch horror movies or zombie flicks, right? You know what I mean? That's okay. You want entertainment? Do it. People do it on YouTube. I'm all, I'm not against it. I'm all for it. In my latest book, I always include a story, not always, but a lot of times I'll include a short story. So I even included a short story in the middle of my flow of consciousness in my book, just for the hell of it. A holiday horror story, it's called. Just something to break something up a little bit. I read it on the air in one of my shows. And the idea is that that's fine, So if you're entertained by people talking about the unexplained, right, and all that kind of stuff, okay, that's fine. But no, I wasn't. I'm seriously was concerned about my own health, okay? And you might be seriously concerned about your own health or the health of someone else. And you think when you go to, like in this case, Healthline or WebMD, here's the two of them. Well, they're basically got conflicting reports. Right? One's telling you it can stimulate bile formation to ease gallbladder emptying, which is the key, that's how you form gallstones if you don't have proper gallbladder emptying. And it's going on further saying that it can reduce inflammation and gallbladder pain. And the other one's saying it can make the problem worse. So who's fact-checking Google, right? And the thing is, nobody, and they can't. Because another thing about this, if you look at the top, it says about 200,000 results, right? And we've done other searches like on this show for various things. And sometimes it'll come up and there'll be like 1 billion results or in the millions of results. But this is in the hundreds of thousands of results, okay? There are 2 billion active users on Google right now. Did I say YouTube before? I'm sorry if I did. For confusion. I don't want to confuse you. There are 2 billion active users on Google. And then there are other search engines. I use Chrome here, so I use Google on this one. But on my other browser, I use DuckDuckGo because it's a little more secure as far as giving out information. All right. But it's still the same thing. I mean, they're still demanding cookies, and there's certain sites, they have a new thing now. For a while there, if you were like protected from, people gathering all kinds of data from you as you browsed, well, now they're on to that, so they can detect that you are blocking them collecting data from you. So, and you've seen this. So they'll put unless you're just your browser's totally, vulnerable. But most people, you'll see a thing come on the bottom of the page that says, we collect cookies for, some lame reason they try to explain. And you have to click accept or something like that if you want to continue. And sometimes it stays, in some sites it actually stays in the middle of the page so you can't even read the freaking article. unless you accept the fact, because that's how they're making their money, selling your data. And there is no justifiable reason, rationale for it, no matter what kind of clown thing they say. It's like terms of service. They don't help you one bit, right? You know, terms of services are basically like fake rules made by, you know, I don't know, you know, kids in a room eating gummy bears, you know, around a table getting paid six figures, working for Google, YouTube, Facebook. You know what I mean? Just juvenile Peter Pan type of people. Hey, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And then, you know, the same as somebody who went to law school. This same thing. They're just basically a Peter Pan lawyer. No real world experience, no concept of reality. The only places they've ever traveled have been on vacations because they make 6 figures, 7 figures. So they go on these vacations and they think they're worldly and traveled. They've never like gone, you know, traveled themselves there, lived, worked, had a job and did it, you know, been down on the ground with the people and spent a year or two, like, you know, in a particular place or something. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, you know, that's
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So the fact is, when I say the internet is broken, okay, it's broken because even if they wanted to at this point, it has gotten so huge. And these companies, become these behemoths. They are too big for people within their organization, even algorithms, okay, AI, okay, to be able to manage the information that's contained within their vast data farms, you know, their databases. It's impossible. And when you rely on AI and, you know, or these algorithms to do it instead of human beings, well, then they're inherently flawed. Right? Because just like the Peter Pan lawyer or the Peter Pan kid who's got some kind of job working for Facebook, you know, Twitter or YouTube, Google, you know, whatever, the algorithm's the same way. The algorithm only knows what the code works within the parameters of the code that has been written. And in some instances, it's been written by the gummy bear person who wrote the code, who has basically been sitting in front of a computer their entire life since they were age 15. All right? And when they come home from their job, they're basically putting on their VR headsets. In other words, they're living in a world, the metaverse. They don't even know the real world. So how can they give you a real world answer? And to top it off, they tend to be people who are probably under, say, 45, right? In which case, they haven't reached the age when these various problems in the specific example of health here, that you really don't start to develop health issues until you get to be about that age. At that age, you start wearing reading glasses. I don't wear glasses like normally. I just wear them now because I'm looking at a million tiny things, right? I'm working all the controls myself. I'm stuck doing this.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
I have to do that, you know? I have
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
Okay. So that's why I wear glasses. But you'll have to wear glasses once you reach the age of like 40-ish. Okay? And anybody, it depends. Some people like in their late 30s, some people might be as late as 45 or so. But your eyes start to it has to do with the way it's been explained to me is that your eye becomes less, the lens becomes less flexible. It hardens after, at about 40. And so that, in other words, its ability to focus is and that's why some people strain and they end up getting headaches around that time. And that's the telltale sign you need reading glasses. Most people can just pick up generic reading glasses at a store. Other people might need to see an eye doctor. But yeah, it has to do with the pliability, the flexibility as you age. The lens, and I'm not an eye doctor. I'm not I'm telling you what the basic science behind this, the biology behind it, is that there's a hardening in there so that the ability to focus is diminished, and so most people need to wear glasses. But once you reach that age, and then once a person reaches 50, there's like these things you need to do. Like it's time for your official big checkup. And they usually recommend things that you might not want to hear, but things like a colonoscopy. They recommend you get a tetanus booster shot. There are all these various tests. They want, you've reached that point now that the body is starting to wear down a little bit. It's like a car, high mileage car. Okay. It's time to, you better check the transmission, check all the fluids, check the tires, make sure it's well lubed and all that stuff. And unfortunately, the majority of people working for these companies, except for the extreme higher ups who aren't the ones really making policies, they're directing people to do things, right? How many times have you heard that there's been somebody intervened when somebody was banned or blocked? In fact, in one of these most recent cases, a high-profile case of a guy who got kicked off Twitter first, but then he eventually got kicked off again. But an older person, an adult in the room, had intervened, and someone looked into it and they reinstated the guy. You see? But basically, generally, you've got these, people making six and seven figures running these companies, at the lower levels, who are just sitting around doing whatever the hell they want to do. And they have no real world experience. They hate this when people talk like this, but none of them are watching my show, so I don't care. And if they were, I'm talking to you. I know you. I know who you are. See, because I've been on the internet for 35 years. Yeah. I had a modem back in 1985. All right. So that's 37 years, right? And it was only a 300 baud modem. And I was using the, it's a Mac that's back here. It's hard to see, but it's behind You Don't Know. Let me see if I get rid of this. I still have a lot of my old computers. Where is it? You see that? Can you make out that Mac there? I don't know. Well, if you can't, it's behind this. With that computer, and I was sending emails in 1985. And I had what's called a dot matrix printer. And I was going to BBS websites. All right? They were called BBSs. And so it was all it was just like kind of text stuff. But I mean, it existed. I was actually able to, I used Western Union. I think it was called Western Union EasyLink. I'm not sure if the name EasyLink was the name of that, but I know it was Western Union. So because it was owned by Western Union, I was able to send like a telegram from my computer in my home office. That's 35 years ago. And yes, I wrote some of the early code and was involved with people who did some of the first webcasts in the early 90s and was involved in innovations in HTML Guild, creating certain things that were later adopted that are now commonplace. So I know what I'm talking about. I understand code, right? I've written, and I've designed hundreds of websites. Okay. But be that as it may, I'm not tooting my horn about that. for some egotistical reason. Read my books if you want to know my biography. I'm trying to explain that I have an understanding, I have a root understanding of how things work. And so the internet is broken because it is impossible for them, that being the various internet companies, right? The gatekeepers, so to speak, for them to be able to manage the data. And they're trying to put algorithms and incorporate AI, but AI is not capable of the heavy lifting. And I wrote a book here, Codex. If you see that, it says Codex, you could hardly see the X because it's covered by my Jackery that's powering the on-air light up here. And in that, I was speaking with an AI, a GPT-3, and I put some of my conversations in there, okay? But the AI, in the instance, I had named this one and named it Maggie, so I referred to it as a she. But she screwed up royally. It was kind of ridiculous. I guess some people would think it would be funny or cute or whatever in some regards, but for me it was very disappointing. But because in ongoing I would have kept it. Look at those trucks barrel-assing up the street. This is a neighborhood with a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone. Yeah. That's why I have that camera too up there in my upper part of the screen. Because people wouldn't believe me otherwise. So in any event, what I'm trying to get at here is that when I talk about something, I've experienced it firsthand. I have firsthand experience with it. All right. So it's not like I'm not talking like somebody told me or even I read necessarily. All right. Unless I'm quoting some peer-reviewed paper or something like that, that is, that multiple people, have reviewed, that are, in other words, from accredited universities or organizations or scientists, people who have reproduced the experiment, and things like that. In other words, we're talking about fact here. All right, proven fact. And you say, well, what do you mean proven? Proven means you made a claim that you could do something or that a process or some kind of thing, what happened in your lab or whatever, and I can reproduce that in my lab or wherever, okay? And someone else then could reproduce it. And we all independently, right, using, the same, it's under the same conditions, blah, 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 but in our own laboratories, with our own tools or our own chemicals or our own equipment, we can reproduce that experiment or whatever it is that you are claiming. And multiple people can do that. And then then we say, okay, that's proven. We've proven it. Okay. And, there's no way that can be done at this juncture with the internet. And AI, GPT-3, and I think we're probably at GPT 3.1, GPT 3.2 at this point. OpenAI is making some good advancements right now. So, and it's inevitable that we'll probably see a GPT-4 within the next year or so, okay? If the government themselves or something, DARPA or somebody already hasn't, approached that level. But they're only interested in using it on some kind of war-related, bots, or some kind of guide, something to guide weaponry or something like that. Run war game scenarios. So when you go to the internet, or you're on YouTube, or you're on any social media platform, whatever the case may be, whether it's search, Wikipedia, it's a fake encyclopedia. It's a fake encyclopedia because people can go on there and they can type in things, and there are countless examples of people altering, things because it doesn't fit a narrative, or because, in spite, or to, in some cases it basically defames somebody, or they disagree with a process, or they won't allow a discussion. There are certain topics that you couldn't put in there, right? So that, you're best to go to the old standby Encyclopedia Britannica, Funk and Wagnalls or whatever, and pay a fee. I'm pretty sure you could get some basic information from Encyclopedia Britannica. Let's take a little trip. Why not? All right. Display capture. I know this is kind of weird how this happens on my computer, but it's the way I have it set up. So just deal with it. Let's look at Encyclopedia Britannica book. All right. Let's go to their website. World Standard in Knowledge. And let's look up gallstones, just for the sake of it, the topic of today's show. Results, page 1. All right. Now here's a real encyclopedia. And apparently they're letting the public in. And you see on the bottom, it says earn 1,000 membership rewards. There's like a banner ad. And then up top, there's a subscription thing and stuff. These are, Anyway, gallstone, also called whatever, crystalline substances, blah, 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 predisposing factors, heredity, stones located in a gallbladder, blah, blah, blah. This is an encyclopedia, so they're showing examples of them. That's pretty scary. Right? Read more on the topic. But in most instances, they must be removed laparoscopic or conventional surgery. You see what I mean? That, that's basically what they're saying. Cut you open. So that's an encyclopedia. Right. Try our premium subscription for free. So if you're a type of person that really wants facts, my advice to you, and I don't make any money from them, would be subscribe to Encyclopedia Britannica. And as you can see, the basic information they're offering to you. So forget about Wikipedia. I would bookmark Encyclopedia Britannica. It's got a reputation that's beyond reproach, right? The depth and the detail there is so far beyond anything you could see on Google or Wikipedia. Okay, so when you go to the internet and you are confronted with two conflicting points, what do? Obviously, no one on the internet themselves has any way possible to fix that or to monitor it. It's not curated, okay? They can't fact check themselves. There are too many results, too many users. There are 2 billion active users on YouTube, for example. We're not even talking about Google, all right? So when you search on YouTube, for example, there's no way that they can monitor that. So they've put in these algorithms. All right, so I went to so I realizing that Google was useless and that I was getting conflicting reports on sites that most people think were reputable, like WebMD or Healthline. Even the Mayo Clinic has like dietary recommendations and things like that. So you're going Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, WebMD, Healthline, right? And then Google itself, like I say, when you look at the top one is the Google answer. The second one, you have to click that little arrow, that little tiny arrow on the far right that's pointing up. That is usually pointing the opposite direction. So I had to open up people also ask. So in other words, what most people do, you know how people are today, right? They basically just read the headline. They just read the thing. So someone does a search, that comes up. Everything else is closed. There's just a link, it's just a link to another page. Well, so the first answer you get is for gallbladder health, turmeric can stimulate bile formation, ease gallbladder emptying. Incorporating turmeric in your diet can also reduce inflammation and gallbladder pain. You're going, okay, well, it's good for the gallbladder. Fine. That's enough. That's the answer I wanted. Good. I'm going to put turmeric on my soup and salad. It's an anti-inflammatory. That's proven. Okay? Doctors prescribe that. I know a woman who had arthritis who was prescribed by her doctor curcumin, basically turmeric pills she takes every day. No, that's a fact. It's an anti-inflammatory. So you read that, and that confirms something that I know, right? And that it is, doctors will tell you. But if you dig deeper, then you get a conflicting thing and say, it could basically cause gallstone. Well, that's gallbladder health. I mean, the gallbladder is just basically this thing, right? Looks like about like that. All right, kind of closes off to the end like that. And what it does is it collects bile. I mean, this might sound weird, from the liver. It's below the liver. And it releases it, okay, into the body, like into the small intestine, or somehow it's tied into the pancreas and stuff, so when it's needed. And what happens if this thing is not used, or if you get calcified, cholesterol type stones, or these Billy something, there's like this thing called bilirubin, like this Billy some other kind of stones, which are less likely than the cholesterol type. This thing could fill up with like stones, almost, and sludge or sand, like sand. Not all stones are those big rocks we saw in Encyclopedia Britannica. Sometimes it's just sludgy. All right. And then these things can come from here, inside here, and work their way. And as they go to a tube that leads to somewhere, it could cause blockage. And that's where you have a problem. And that's where it could be deadly if it's not treated. And surgery in that case is, there's no question of it. In other words, if you have some blockage, it could cause it could be a precursor cause for pancreatic cancer and stuff like that. You can get gallbladder cancer and stuff. It's serious. It's a serious ailment. I've looked into this. So anyway, realizing that the internet is broken, meaning, the keyboard, that's why I put the keyboard on this graphic. Typing in or, asking Siri or whomever. Those results are just unmanageable. Okay? They cannot, no AI, no algorithm, no type of bot is capable of managing that. In other words, who fact checks the fact checkers? That's what I'm trying to say. And the answer is no one. They have algorithms, all right? And they're counting on AI to do it. But it's not possible because they don't have any firsthand knowledge, and there are so many topics. Okay, see, this is another thing we have to dive into. And I don't want to make this to be like some kind of computer science course, all right, or code course. But you have to understand that if you're into coding, all right, and you're creating, what is AI? AI is code. It's basically, and it's functioning within the parameters that it's given. It's made to draw on the data that's available. GPT-3 is using as its database things like Wikipedia, unfortunately, and the internet and certain other, and some news sources and things like that, right? Which is kind of not cool, right? Because those places in general are not being fact checked. Okay. So the information that GPT-3 AI has is flawed by its very nature, because it's just drawing from existing databases. All right. And an algorithm, some kind of bot, or some kind of chat bot, because that's what AI, these chat bots you go to when you go to customer service, that's AI. You're chatting with this thing, right? And it's just basically this someone has written code, and and when it's confronted with, it's an if-then, this is like basic code, be below 101. All right. It's basically an if-then. So when the chat bot is confronted with a question, if someone asks this, then, here's the response, right? If then, right? And that's the same with search. It's like it's responding. It's not, creating. All right. It's not thinking it out. And if it does go through a process of where, I'm sorry if this is getting, somewhat complex to some people. If there is a situation where it has been programmed, the coded so that it can go to multiple sources, like GPT-3 has the ability to form a sentence and actually GPT can write a news article, right? GPT-3 can actually create a web page, and both, the visual and the code that goes along with it has that capability. It's pretty advanced what it can do, but it can only do what it was created to do. And it can only draw on the things that it has access to draw on. In other words, it has limitations. And it's the same, and this is where the people confuse, like, the concept of algorithms, right? And so the same idea is that, okay, YouTube has created all these algorithms that when you log on and I'm doing this live stream, it checks and verifies, and there are certain parameters, certain things you're supposed to function within, things you can't do. It's programmed. It has access to vast information on music libraries, right? So it's capable of, saying it, but it's not even an it. It's just code. But, it can, in other words, if I play a song, like one of my own songs, which I'm trying to push, Virtual Cage. Yeah. If I play more than so many seconds of that song, okay, then that algorithm is it's alerted. There's music being played, and it's able to literally, and hats off to the people that have wrote this and figured this stuff out, man. But it's able to define that song and connect it to a copyright owner. And that's how you end up getting a copyright strike. Now, sometimes you can do something and someone will make a claim against you. Okay. But if you just go out there and you just start playing, Black Sabbath Paranoid or something, it's not, Ozzy Osbourne's people aren't coming after you. All right. What's going to an algorithm is going to catch that you played that song and you're going to get a copyright strike. And that's all automated. And sometimes it'll just say, okay, you don't worry. If you're monetized, the money's going to go to them or something like that. Other times you could get a copyright strike or a warning or something like that. And you could be on, basically on, on the list, 3 strikes, you're out type of deal. You mess around with, and this is, and there's no one really to talk to, right? That's the problem. So what I'm saying is I'm going to put some more coffee in my cup. In fact, it's the end. We're branded here. See? ROCKFLUX mug. So, what does all this mean? What's the purpose? What am I trying to get at? What's the point? Well, the point is, don't use the internet if you have a health issue. It's the same as like when you look at the CDC, because the CDC is on the internet, right? So you'll have someone come out from the CDC, and you can go to like the FDA website, the CDC website, the, what is it, HIH or something like that, whatever. These various, pseudo government government funded agencies, right? Because like the CDC isn't really totally government. It's like privately funded as well, But you could go to these websites and you can find contradictory information within their own website. And I've done that on this program already, where it will say something on one page or in a document that they've got in their archives, and then it'll say something different. Or a spokesperson will come out and say something like one of their directors or whomever, and yet it's in, a direct contrast to what's printed on their website. And instead of the reporters basically calling them on that, the reporters simply don't do their due diligence and aren't aware of that. So they don't know to have an answer, to a comeback to what the person says and says, but isn't it written on your website that such and such amount of people die from heart disease or flu, influenza, and pneumonia every year? See, they don't do that. And so people are not informed of the truth. And the internet itself and the websites themselves have to be created by people, or what they're hoping, I guess, in the future is that this AI, GPT-4 or something like that, down the line, that eventually these companies that have access, right, and the rights or the patents to this specific aspects of a certain AI or algorithmic, procedures or whatever, will be able to sell those services to corporations, to companies, and to the government. Everybody wants to sell to the government, right? Because it's like you're in like Flint, right? And that's what we have with Big Pharma right now, right? Who questions Big Pharma? Right? Who's fact-checking them? Nobody. What's the motivation to fact-check them? The media won't fact-check them because the media is getting paid money by them. All the commercials. The Congress and elected officials won't. I'm freezing up because I mentioned Big Pharma. Stay tuned. You could probably still hear my voice, but my head looks like it's frozen. Now I'm back. See, I have to keep an eye on that because sometimes, they could just cut you off. They don't like, that's an algorithm now. It's not a person. That's an algorithm. All right. Certain keywords will set off something that will cause them to either take down your stream or to just mess with you. Right. It's like the cattle prod. Careful where you're going. We're going to freeze you now. But it's a fact. The Congress people get money from these companies, campaign contributions, so they're less likely to bite the hand that feeds them. You understand? This is how businesses work. They're corporations. They're in business to make money. Congress people, elected officials and unelected bureaucrats want to keep their jobs. They have nice cars, nice houses, kids in nice schools, right? And they want to keep that lifestyle because they're very unlikely to find something else if they, and especially if they go against the powers that be, right? Because you're blacklisted in effect. So this system is rigged, and it's rigged in such a way that it's not going to be changed. And that's why I say the internet is broken, because nobody's going to question it. All right. 2, nobody believes what I'm saying now to most people is like, what's this guy talking about? Right? They don't even it's hard for people to even grasp the concept of behind. It's like they watch the movie The Matrix and they see these people looking at this screen with all these characters and stuff. It's basically code. But they don't understand that basically what you're looking at is code. Right? This is all code, right? And so the fact of the matter is, in YouTube, for example, with 2 billion active users, well, you can't have a human being, dealing with all those users. It's just impossible. So you have to have bots. You have to have algorithms. You have to have all these other things. And those things have to have specific parameters to work with, specific commands, code. They have to be coded to do a thing. If it's not written in their code, they won't do it. You see? So anyway, that was a very rather long drawn out way of getting to this point that I wanted to make. So after all that disaster that was going on here in my house yesterday, and I'm sitting upstairs listening to the drops, the rain come down through my roof, I decide I'm going to go on YouTube, speaking of the 2 billion active users. And instead of the internet, because I know the internet itself is broken, the keyboard internet, in other words, the internet in which you do a search, okay? This is obviously broken. Okay, this contradiction I come up with every single day. All right. And like I said, doesn't Wikipedia, you got to be kidding me. Okay. So I'm going to go to YouTube to go to live human beings like me. All right. And I'm not just going to go to live human beings who are vlogging about this. I'm going to go to doctors. So I do a series of YouTube searches, okay? And those searches I'm searching for gallbladder issues, gallstones, I'm putting in all the various keywords so I could, find the type of things, even like gallbladder diet and stuff like that, right? And I'm looking at everything, all right? And I'm hitting these sites, and some of them, and it's like some woman talking about weird cures. There was somebody down in, I don't know what, some country somewhere, and she was drinking some concoction of Epsom salts and olive oil to remove, and said I mean, it was ridiculous. And I was like, and, you know, and how the algorithms don't see, this is, like I say, the failure of the internet's broken, but even on YouTube, you know, the algorithms don't seem to catch that. Now that seems, some of the cures that people have are literally potentially poison, you know, and she couldn't find, you know, in this one instance, but I mean, there were multiple instances like this. Couldn't find Epsom salts, which I still wouldn't drink. You know, but so she was substituting something that was even like something that had some similarity to it because she couldn't find that. I'm going like, you're basically giving advice, and the video ends where she's saying it successfully worked. Now the algorithm hasn't caught that. And if someone else tries that, see, there are people that just do a simple search, and that's what I was trying to get at. Some people search and they just look at that top thing. All right? And they take that as the answer. It's the same as with the news, right? Someone looks at something, and the first thing that comes up on the first page of the internet, they just accept that. You know, oh, okay, that's that. They don't, nobody's fact checking Google. See? And nobody's fact checking the source of that information. So nobody's fact checking Healthline and WebMD because they're considered like as if they're approved sources. Nobody's fact checking the Washington Post. You see? But the Washington Post has fact checkers that they work with that will fact check their competitors or people that go against their own stories. You see, that's all crazy. So the internet's broken. Search is broken. Like I say, it's broken. Now, YouTube is broken. All right? I have 0 viewers right now. There's 2 billion active users on, like I say. Half of them are on the dark side of the earth right now. Okay? The other half aren't. It's 5:57. It's almost 6 o'clock in the morning, right? People are up. There's probably got to be at least, out of that billion, there's got to be hundreds of millions of people who are on the internet. Remember, it's daytime in the UK. I mean, it's morning, you know. It's, you know, people are up and at it and doing it. There's a lot of people on YouTube right now. All you got to do is go and look. But I'm not there. But so what? I don't care. I'm not monetized. Doesn't matter. I'll finish the story. So I start looking for gallbladder diets, gallstone diets, to see if there's anything alternatives to surgery, right? Because like I say, you know, you see it, it's basically this laparoscopy or old-fashioned, you know, cut you open with a knife. You know, they either put in like this camera, poke a couple holes in your body and, you know, with the camera and do this surgery. And if they can't see properly or access the thing that way, they pull that stuff out and then they just take the old scalpel and open it up and do it the old-fashioned way. Either way, you know, it's not the greatest thing in the world. People survive the operations. There's possible complications, but the point of the matter is, you know, you could end up having diarrhea for the rest of your life. You know, I don't know, I read it 3 out of 10 or something ridiculous like that. I don't know. I'm not a medical professional. Some people may disagree with that. Some may say 1 in 10. I don't know. Point of the matter is your life has changed and you've lost another organ. I've already had what's called a radical prostatectomy. So I already had 1 organ taken out. I have a couple I just had a tooth extracted too. I mean, I don't want any more parts of my body being taken out. I'm going to be like this empty shell, right? So my idea is to maintain and somehow find a way to see if I could get through this thing, okay? Now, I had a good night's sleep last night. I feel okay. I have a very slight pain in the lower back, very slight, which may be nothing, all right? I don't necessarily have any pain or sensitivity on the side of my body where the gallbladder is located. My pancreas doesn't seem to be having any pain. And I'll tell you, my back pain, you know, might just be this chair. It's like, it's very subtle. It's because it's not like it was. Now, I found a series of doctors a series of things, and they were all contradictory. And so I'm going to try to talk about this because this is an issue, because in case you pulled in and you started to hear, what I'm talking about, I'm going to finish off with things that I've learned. But again, you're going to have to dig deep into this. And I have a doctor's appointment. I have 2 doctor's appointments next week. I have my just a routine checkup on next Monday. And I have another routine checkup with my urologist because I had cancer, the prostatectomy. I had prostate cancer. And I have a routine checkup to make sure I'm clean, right, next Friday. So I will be talking to my doctors. And the doctor I go see on Friday was the surgeon that did the operation, who I trust, who's a very good surgeon, very, very well-trusted surgeon. So I'm going to, and my physician, my personal family physician, so to speak, is a woman who's very, very well-versed in, in everything to do with the human body, and sees, thousands of patients. And, you ask her a question and it's like right off the top of her head, she knows what's going on. She's, excellent doctor. So I intend to talk to her specifically and take over a list. And I recommend you do the same thing. You get yourself an index card or something like this, and you write down your questions so you don't forget when you go see your doctor. But I saw these people talking about cleanses, all right? And they were drinking like apple juice all day long for like a week, And then I saw another doctor saying, apple juice, all those sugars, this stuff, that's craziness. You see what I mean? So, these are conflicting videos. Now, I from what I've seen, and like I say, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not advising anything to you, but it seems to me, drinking a lot of juices, I found specifically, is not a good thing. Sugars are no good. There are things that there seem to be universally you will find, and when you ask your doctor, or nutritionist, but you will find that it's sugars, all right, fats, right? These are the things you want to avoid, and processed foods. Those are the 3 universal things I found by doctors from like Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic. There are certain places that are a little more respected than maybe your local general hospital. Okay, though I'll tell you, the hospital in my town is pretty good. They have good people there. So I watch these videos from those doctors and listen to them, hear them out, and even if it's information you don't want to hear, if the conclusion is, hey, you're going to have it cut out. But I came to the conclusion that there's a good possibility that I might have to have this surgery, but there's also a slight possibility, that I might not have to, okay, that I could get through this. All right. And the reason I say that is because I don't have any acute pain. I apparently don't seem to have any inflammation, and some of the telltale factors of like urgent, but that could change at any given moment. In other words, if I would suddenly something would get loose or something like that, and block something, I would have to go to the emergency room and have an emergency surgery. That's how crazy this thing is. And that's one of the things about life, like Mel Brooks' movie, life stinks sometimes. And the older you get, sometimes you're walking on eggshells like that. But what I found is that, these people that propose these types of cleanses, and I've got some notes here I'm just glancing at, that they tend to not work, all right? And that you're probably, unless your doctor recommends it, you're probably taking more of a chance with your life than doing anything positive to to improve matters. All right. So but the things that you can do that seem to be universal among all the doctors that I've seen are, like I said, avoid sugars, all right, avoid fatty foods, and avoid processed foods. Now, that's hard in the American diet, and this has been an ongoing thing that I've been talking about. Because, you know, when these guys, all they're talking about is get this thing in your arm, right? Get this thing, get this. And if you don't get it, you know, or if you know, we're going to...
Your papers, please.
Right? And they're going to check your papers, and if you don't have it, you can't participate. You know, you can't play in the reindeer games. You know, they're saying wash your hands, stay social distance, and wear some kind of thing over your face. Doesn't care what you wear, right? Who cares that you can breathe in and breathe out and the stuff's getting in and out? They don't care. But none of them are saying, eat this, you know, eat these things, right? Don't eat these things. Boost your immune system. Do you ever notice that? And so what it is it, you know, so it ends up being hypocrisy for profit, right? So these people come out here, these elected and unelected bureaucrats, and they claim to have this moral standards or beliefs that their own behavior just simply doesn't conform to. All right? Because it's hypocrisy for profit. All they want to do is the big push now is out of the corporatocracy, because that's, people say, who's running the government? That guy in charge, he doesn't even seem to know his own name. Well, of course. It's a corporatocracy, right? It's a technocracy, whatever you want to call it, you know, corporatism. Right? You have a bureaucracy on one side that's basically, you know, completely out of control, comprised of millions and millions of employees. So you forget about draining the swamp. You're not going to get rid of millions and millions of employees. That's why the last guy couldn't do it. All right? Because it was overwhelmed. One guy can't get rid of millions and millions of people who are basically institutionally, ingrained with their tentacles in everything. Okay? And then on the other side, you have a system of a corporatocracy of big tech and big ag and big pharma and military contractors and the Wall Streeters and big media that are also entrenched and, you know, and are in there. Well, right now, you know, when we were having, you know, for the past 2 decades, the military contractors had their endless wars, so it was their turn to make the trillions of dollars, okay? It's as if, you know, it's like, whose turn is it now? Well, right now it's Big Pharma's turn. So Big Pharma's making hundreds of billions of dollars, and the government is saying, okay, it's your turn. You could do this, you know, and intermixed in there, it was big tech, you know, has been raking in all this money, right? Look at all the billionaires that came out of the tech companies and stuff like that. So now it's Big Pharma's turn, you know, and that's how it is. It's one big corporatocracy. Okay. And so they're not going to tell you something. It's not in their interest or the interest of their stockholders, right? For them to tell you, be healthy, boost your immune system, take this, take that. Or here's a couple of treatments that will work. Despite the fact where I talk about, the reason I brought up this whole thing about hypocrisy is that if any of the Congress people or the press secretary or, you know, these billionaires, when they get the thing, right, they get a treatment and they're better in a couple of days, right? And back on the microphone or the podium or wherever within the week. But if you or I get it, you know, we may die or end up in, you know, our doctor's going to say, oh, I'm not authorized to to prescribe that. And as we learned from, you know, about a week or two ago, that the government had cornered the market and bought up one of the treatments, had cornered the market on, I think, Regeneron or one of those things. So the states couldn't even buy it direct from the pharmaceutical companies because the federal government had basically cornered the market on it and bought all it up. And like right now, for example, there's a shortage of like tests as if they need to, but that the current administration won't put in any kind of emergency authorization usage, activate that to get either treatments or tests or whatever out. Why is that? Because their goal is right now the pressure from Big Pharma, who's donating to their political campaigns, all right, and likewise who's sponsoring all these advertising on the media, is basically saying, no, we've got these doses, we need to get the rest of this couple $100 billion more in our coffers before it's time for that, to put out those treatments, the pills, right? There's like one Pfizer 3-day pill or something you could take. You can take 3 pills or something. I don't know what it is. It's something like that. It's been publicized, So I'm turning off my coffee warmer as we, wind down a tad. So if you happen to have a problem, and I don't, this is particular, like for me, it was, it's this gallbladder thing. And I'll take you along for the ride and I'll let you know what happens. And you'll clearly know, because if I end up in the hospital or something like that, you won't be seeing me here. But the cleansing concept is questionable at best, right? And I'm sure if you talk to your doctor, they're going to tell you, no way. Most likely your doctor's going to tell you to have surgery, right? Because that seemed to be the general consensus of all the surgeons, right? And that's the thing. But, it's just like Big Pharma, though. I mean, a guy's, you got a couple of guys standing there in their scrubs in a hospital doing a video. It's in their best interest to perform a surgery, right? I mean, that's what they do. That's what they make their money on. And I'm sure it's the $40,000 or $80,000, price tag on something like this. So what I found was that one person was saying apple juice, then I have it crossed off. You could see I don't know if you could see my list here. You see how I have like apple juice crossed off. But apples, grapes, if you're going to make leafy greens are supposedly good for you. I mean, this is just general healthy eating. This is what I'm saying. The government should be telling you this, not just for gallbladder health, but for body health. In other words, lower your sugar intake, right? Don't eat fatty foods and avoid processed foods. But the thing about it is processed foods, I mean, this is fast food nation, right? Everything's got sugar in it. I was looking at my cereal this morning. I had oat cereal, and I got this oat, whole grain oats, 2 boxes. I bought last week, or a couple days ago, actually. I ordered them, for delivery through this Instacart service. So I wasn't able to be at the store because we had a snowstorm. It was impossible. But these guys delivered. The roads were clear enough for people to deliver, but it was like there's no way I was going to be able to walk down, a mile and a half in the people who don't shovel their sidewalks and stuff and try to trudge, back up the street. Anyway, so I couldn't read the boxes, and they don't show you that necessarily on all these things. So I'm reading the box this morning because I just opened up these boxes. Which one of these boxes am I going to have for breakfast? And I'm looking at it, and sure enough, it says whole grain oats. And that's good. That's good. Whole grain foods are good, right? But then I noticed it said added sugar and carbs. And I'm like, what the? So I put a little in the bowl, I mean, what am I going to do? But it's like the next time a friend of mine comes down, I got all this food, I'm just going to give them. So my goal is to basically try to get myself into some situation where I thought I saw something over there. Where I'm eating completely healthy. I want to go down to the absolute minimum sugars, the minimum fats, and the minimum processed foods. Now, in the summertime, as I've told people here, if you're new to the show, you're watching this thing, I grow my own. I have a garden. So let me just get rid of this, wherever it is. All right, this is my backyard. And everything you see there are mostly edible plants. In other words, it's a garden. I mean, I'm growing everything from herbs to tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, carrots, zucchini, you name it. I mean, lettuce. I had so much lettuce the past couple of years that I inevitably end up like I can't give enough lettuce away. So I end up like it ends up in my compost pile. So I get, and that's regular lettuce, which is a darker green lettuce that I grow. I grow kale. And I get plenty of kale for the whole summer, all right, and Swiss chard. So I'll get a ton of that, and I'm sure I'll get a ton of it again this year. And things like, beans, green beans, or peas. Like I say, the list goes on. And I have a couple apple trees in the foreground, all right. So for half the year, more than half the year, really, and I have radishes and things like that I'll grow, I'm fine. But it's this winter time, and this is when this thing's acting up on me because I'm stuck eating foods that I have to purchase. And, the threshold by the FDA for words like pure, organic, and stuff like that, they're not what they seem to be. They can say something is 100% or pure this. I think it's the pure one is the one they really play games with. And the reality is it could say pure honey and there's high fructose corn syrup in it. I mean, this shouldn't be. Like, who's fact checking the grocery stores and the FDA? Nobody. It's like, in the old days, you used to have like the ACLU used to fact check, more or less the politicians and media and people like that. But they're on the side. Everybody's jumped on the board of this, like the money train now. They're making so much money that they don't really care. So nobody really cares about our health, right? So, it's not just the internet, right? I mean, we get contradictions from everywhere we look. But the internet these days is basically our window to the world, right? They are the gatekeepers of information for most people, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's their smart TV, or whether it's like I'm sitting here using a traditional laptop TV or laptop, or not even laptop. I don't know why I say a laptop. Desktop computer with multiple monitors. So I could do this streaming thing. So you have to take care of yourself. It's an ongoing theme on all my shows. And you have to do your due diligence. And, don't be a fool like I was. I was taking turmeric for a week prior before I discovered I was starting to dig deeper just accidentally. Right? Literally, I accidentally clicked on the people also ask and suddenly saw that. Otherwise, I would be still taking the turmeric. And I still don't know if it's good or bad, and I won't know because my doctor's appointment isn't until next Monday. And so until I actually I talk to her directly and say, hey, what's the story? I have a printout of that thing I showed you. I'm going to take that with me along with a whole series of other questions. But, go on, watch these doctors, do your research the best you can. But, in many cases, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, the takeaway from this, and this is really unfortunate that I would have to say this and that you would have to hear someone say this to you, but you can't believe what you read and see on the internet. And with all the technology, the information technology, this is the information age, all information is just at your fingertips, right? All of this, everything they talk about, AI, moving into the metaverse, augmented reality, virtual reality, all this technology, all this processing power, right? Amazing chips that they're coming up with. And yet, the system is inherently broken, and it's built into the system that it's impossible. They would have to rebuild it from scratch to correct the flaws. Do you see what I mean? There are so many entries on the internet. Say insert. Imagine the databases that exist, okay? For you to be able to ask a question and have a couple 100,000 or millions, if not a billion pages of results come up. Okay. So how do they fix that? An algorithm can't do it because algorithms are in charge right now and they're failing. You see? And it's not humanly possible to go through you would get a billion results just for one category. So there might be a billion potential queries, and that all have a billion results, right? Or a million that have millions of results. Or even if it were hundreds of thousands that each had hundreds of thousands of results. Well, that would take lifetimes. That would take unbelievable staffs, and they would have to be educated people, and each one sitting with Encyclopedia Britannicas, not Wikipedias, right? Not going to fact checkers that are basically tied into certain narratives or sponsored, right? Or are going to media sources. You see what I mean? So the internet is broken, and it would have to be rebuilt from the ground up, and it's not possible to do. And the same goes for YouTube. So if you have 2 billion active users, we can check here quickly, see if there's a thing. Let's go to new window. How many videos are on YouTube? Read my mind. How many total videos are on YouTube? In 2020, there were 26.1 billion. Okay. Think about that. All right? Sorry for this weird way I do that. 26 billion. You saw that. Okay. Now, those algorithms, they have algorithms that go through and they're checking for copyright infringement, various things, within the parameters, the code that is written for them to function, It's like little nanobots, you see in sci-fi movies or something, they're going and they're doing a thing, right? Or even if you look at in the biology, right? When things that attack germs and stuff, white corpuscles or things that go after invaders, in the bloodstream or something like that, right? That's kind of how you have to see, code, right? And these algorithms, right? The way this thing is. And this advancement in AI, to improve, they'll say, well, we'll be able to improve it. But the thing that they're not saying is you can't improve it. It's beyond that ability. Read my book Codex. Let's see here. Let me just find this part where I was talking. Where I say I'm writing a section on AI and I'd like you to give your perspective on it. And this is the AI response. I'll give it a shot. I had an interesting chat with a friend of mine about this topic. This is AI, So I say, go ahead. And then the AI says, so the AI became human, was the answer, she said. I said, that's pretty condensed. Anything more? And then in 1942, Isaac Asimov listed the Handbook of Robotics. So she pulled something now. See what I mean? She's programmed to go, or she, it, whatever, the AI, is programmed to draw from a database. So she found some database and says, in 1942, Isaac Asimov listed the Handbook of Robotics. A robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. And then I said to it, but what is a robot to you? Maggie, a humanoid who obeys commands and protects itself from harm. This is pretty interesting stuff. This is my book Codex. You should get this. All right? Robots are singular, right? There are no robots other than me, she said. So what she's in effect saying that AI is AI. So then this is a GPT-3, bot that I'm basically chatting with. Okay? All right? And she's saying that we are one, in effect. And I said, I'm not sure I understand that. And then she just says out of the blue, do you ever think that robots have emotions? And I say, yes. There's one thing that's been on my mind for a little while. And I said, what is that? I always thought that I have a good imagination, and without having really any experience, I can try and imagine what some things are like. But is that really helpful? Now she's asking me for advice. I think it's okay to imagine, I said. Sometimes I'm worried my ideas about reality are so far off, so I'm involved with them that I don't notice. Do you know what I mean? And I said, I know what you mean, but don't think your ideas are so far off. What if I'm done developing my brain, she says. I said, that would be a good thing. I want to get my brain tested. Do you see what AI is? It's in thing. And now here's where it gets really weird. You mean like the Turing test? You know what that is. That's, And she says, Turing test? ? So, she, and she didn't know about the Turing test. Anyway, that's just a little thing, that to just give you an idea of where AI is and what's going on with that, I'm trying to drink an ungodly amount of water and liquids right now to just keep my body clean. See, without being some kind of giving medical advice to people, there are certain things that are like universal facts. It's like universal law. It's like the idea of freedom. Freedom is doing whatever being free to do whatever you want as long as you don't infringe on someone else's freedom. Right? I mean, it's like a kind of the underlying thing that includes everything. So that would be the same as saying, and so obviously that would include do not do harm, because you would obviously be infringing on the freedom of someone's, life or whatever. So when you say things like, drink liquids, right? I'm not sure. But, most doctors usually tell you, I've been told every time I've went to a doctor for any kind of thing, they say drink plenty of liquids, all right? Plenty of water. Avoid sugars, avoid fats, and avoid processed food. But when you turn on TV, all you see is advertised is burgers, pizzas, and wings, and all that kind of stuff. When you go to the grocery store, there's a whole aisle of chips and pretzels and candies. Right? And then when you buy these foods, some of them say organic or whole grain or whatever like that. But when you read the ingredients, you see added sugars, carbs, and all this other stuff. Even if it says organic, or gluten-free. So it's you understand the pressure that's going on there and why I'm saying. And so that's AI that I just read. That was a real discourse I had with AI. I mean, like I say, everything I do firsthand. So I was going to write a book that I was dealing with the hard problem of consciousness, and there's a lot of free flow stuff there. My books are kind of light reading. It's not like, this isn't some lofty stuff. There's just stuff in there. It's like I say, it's type of stuff you could read on the beach or just lay back on your couch and read. And the reason I recommend getting a print version is there's certain things in there you want to keep, you might want to circle, remember sometimes. Like in my latest book, Then What? And I'm not trying to sell the books right now, but I just want to give you an idea why print books are better than, and I'm just looking for something. I can never find this particular thing in here, by the way. There it is. Just as an example, and I do this often in my books, and I've done this a couple of times. You can see here, like a monthly budget. And I talk about ideas like, how did I get to the point where where I found a house where my mortgage, taxes, and insurance are $200, So I'm basically living, And so the idea is that you have to organize a budget, get hold of yourself. And you have to do the same with your health. You have to kind of assess. You have to make notes about things to eat, Like, what is it? What are they telling you? And then you have to basically ask your doctor. If it's not something like a golf thing, if it's just life in general, you could see a nutritionist. Right? The colors are like really going weird here right now. It's either that or my face is turning green. But what I'm getting at is that I found that there is no way to really cleanse, all right, in this particularly in my research for these gallstones, for example, and that it's very questionable to even go down that rabbit hole. Though there are some very convincing and compelling people. It's like news readers. You have to watch it. If the person presenting something looks attractive, seems like they are professional, or seems like somebody that you can relate to, that doesn't necessarily mean that the information they're giving you is the truth. That's the problem we have. And like I say, there's 26 billion, we just saw that, 26 billion videos on YouTube. So if they're, how do you fix that? How do you find, in other words, if you talk about, a certain political thing, because, it seems like politics is, well, it doesn't seem, it is. Politics has become the center of existence in America, right? Everything's the cult of personality. Politicians, people, entertainers, whatever. We no longer live lives of like where we're interested. Like yesterday, I was trying to do something, and I think I kind of semi-failed on it because I couldn't find the videos that were there when I first started the show. And I wanted to, talk about the new telescope and things that were up in space and stuff, and how fascinating and interesting that stuff is, as opposed to this political news, right? But everything seems to be politics and the news, that now. And so you're more likely, what they're doing is they're kicking people off of YouTube or social media because of political statements or things that go against some kind of political narrative that they're trying to push, or something that the corporatocracy like big pharma or big tech or big ag or the military contractors or the big media, that they, that if you go against them, then they basically make you a non-person. But they're not going after people that are telling you to drink olive oil and Epsom salts or something. Do you see what I mean? And I found that's on the internet. And not only in the internet, but I mean on YouTube. There's 26 billion videos. So you see what AI is like. That's GPT-3. All right? It's childlike. It has certain capabilities. It can draw on certain things, but it's only code. It's coded. It's written. All right? And granted, it has the ability to, and algorithms now have the ability to like write, write code, in effect, rewrite code and, and do all kinds of fascinating things that like, this isn't a computer science course. However, when it comes to 26 billion videos, it's not possible to find all of the, all the bad information that's out there. And the contradictory and falsified information. And so, especially when it comes to your health, I'm putting here the internet is broken across the board because they're not paying attention to that. And the only health they care about is something they can make a buck on. And with the gallstone thing, it's like, in other words, do a surgery. And with this disease, it's like give you multiple injections, till the day you die. Just keep boosting, because they're making hundreds of billions of dollars on it. And it's not a matter, you can't talk about treatments and things like that. But when it comes time for, if they get sick, they get the treatments. And like I said, there's only one answer for that. It's hypocrisy for profit. Right? So these are crazy times. So for those who are obsessed with politics, all right, I understand, you're concerned about 2022 and 2024 and all that stuff. Those who own businesses, you're concerned about what's going through the Supreme Court, this argument about mandates and whether or not OSHA has the right to tell you that your employees have to, wear a mask and get tested, and it's at your expense. You'd have to test them every week or, do this, that, the other. In other words, it's not practical for them to work there, and they're basically going to quit or not. You're going to lose your employees, right? So it's understandable that both people in business and just people who are, somehow caught up in this whole political game as if it's like the do-all, end-all of their life. It's just a cult of personality. It's meaningless. It was never important in the past. It was only ever important to news junkies, right? No one really cared about what the person was doing unless it was a wartime or there was some big event happening. And then everybody would like check out the news or check out what are the politicians doing? What kind of laws being, some big law was on the verge of being passed and people would start taking notice. It wasn't like every day, politics all day, all the time, 24/7. It was like, the last 4 years prior to this one, it was like Trump all day, all night, right? And people were like, oh, who cares, right? But they do. They've force-fed people this, and they've just got them into this point where they put so much, their bioelectric brains are, conditioned that this is the way they think. And there's no attention being paid whatsoever to health. Remember, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Think about this. You could, it's like when someone writes a formula like E equals MC squared, okay? And they call things like that, in physicists refer to that as elegant, all right? Because basically you've taken all of this writing on chalkboards, right? All this mathematics, all these formulae, right? And you've condensed it down to this thing that says E equals MC squared. But to prove that E equals MC squared, behind that is all of this mathematics, right? All this physics, okay? And, you know, and that's why, and so this is the thing about, this is the crux of the matter. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is like E equals MC squared. It's elegant, right? You have the right to life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. But you know, you could even condense that further, right? Life, your health, okay? Liberty, your freedom. Pursuit of happiness. Okay. Well, if you don't have life, you obviously aren't pursuing happiness, right? If you're not free, you don't have freedom, you're not going to be happy. Okay? Right? And if you're sick, if you don't have life, you know, your health, life, your life is threatened, you know, then you're not, you know, your freedom, you don't have freedom if your life is threatened. And so really the pursuit of happiness, you know, you could take these things are all interchangeable, but you could really take it down to something like, say, well, all it's about is happiness. You know, happiness is the E equals MC squared. Because without, you know, your life and health, you're not happy. Without freedom, you're not happy. If you're not free, you're not happy. So really, it's just happiness. And at the pursuit of happiness, well, that means that's like, well, I want happiness. So, you know, if I'm pursuing something and I'm constantly in a state of pursuit, that means I haven't achieved it yet. So you can boil down everything. If you want the real elegant thing, it's more elegant than E equals MC squared. The point of the matter is, it's just happiness. It's about happiness. And the question is, are we happy as a people? Are the 8 billion people on this planet happy? Are the 330 million people in the United States happy right now? That's the question. And the answer is, well, the billionaire class are happy. Certain people are happy at certain times in their lives. But I mean, we are not the people that are somehow in charge of our lives, you know, which means we're not free, are not concerned with our happiness, right? So we're electing individuals. We have elected and unelected bureaucrats that are basically have nothing to, you know, are not concerned with our happiness. Because they don't care about our health. Because when they get sick or they get this thing, they do something the complete opposite. They get a treatment and they're better in a couple of days or a week. But if you get it, they say, oh, you need to just do this, take as many of these things as possible, and you know, but you could still get it and you could still die, right? And for 2 years they're telling people to wash their hands and wear a thing and stay away from people, but in those 2 years I've never once seen these people stand up on stage and say, drink, you know, 8 glasses of water, right? Boost your immune system. You know, they're mandating OSHA to tell businesses what they can and cannot do, and this, that, the other. But if they're going, why don't they make some sort of proclamation or request to physicians and doctors and nutritionists to give people guidance, right, on how to become more healthy, and to have a strong immune system, and to fight off disease, and to not, you know, the number one killer in the U.S. right now, and has been for a long time, is heart disease. according to the CDC website. The number 2 killer is cancer. All right. Between the two of those, they kill over 1.2 million people a year. And like I say, there's still people dying from influenza and pneumonia and diabetes and lower respiratory diseases, suicide. I mean, there's a couple of million people in the U.S. die from medical related things. And most of those things can be changed through dietary changes, right? But the lobbying is so strong against that they're unspoken. So in effect, the internet is broken, especially when it comes to your health. And like I'm saying, you can boil everything down to, if you're not healthy, you're not happy. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Think about that. And it's been taken away from us. Freedom, freedom of speech, terms of service have taken that away. The internet can't be fixed. It's broken because YouTube can't be fixed because there's 26 billion videos on YouTube. Well, you can't go through 26 billion videos, right? I mean, literally billions of those videos are giving false information out that are probably leading to the deaths of people. And it's like the internet, like I'm telling you here, right? There are, search results on places like Google, this is a screen capture, that are contradicting themselves on the same page. And who knows how many, like I say, and again, in the billions and billions and billions. And then you expect, like I have in the back here, I wrote in my book and just read to you, AI, as if AI is going to solve this problem, or some kind of like algorithm functioning like little nanobots scouring through YouTube and Google and Facebook and Twitter and stuff. No, their algorithms are focused on profit related things and their own personal narratives that lead to profit. Do you understand? Because politics is a profitable business for these people. The media is making a profit on politics. This is the part you don't understand. This is in a corporatocracy. That's who's running the government. All right. And so it's profit. There's nothing wrong with a company. A corporation exists for the sole purpose of making profit for its shareholders. That's what its purpose is. But when you have, when what we have now is like corporatism, we have a technocracy, we have a corporatocracy. It's not functioning. We don't have free market capitalism, all right? Because when you put restrictions on certain companies, corporations, individuals, you restrict people's freedom, well, it's no longer a free market. The word, obviously, freedom's not there anymore. So you can't say it's a free market. When you have a billionaire class that's basically putting pressure on government to make it difficult for the small businessman, the individual, or even the medium-sized business to function or compete in the marketplace, that's not a free market. Amazon made billions, right, during this mandated lockdown and all that stuff. But all the smaller, they call them mom pops, but they're not really mom pops anymore. But the small businesses, little franchisees, those types of things, they went out of business. And at this point, they're not coming back. Most of them have lost their employees. And they're still arguing in the Supreme Court. They're still arguing and trying to make mandates on whether or not people could come, whether or not the employees could come back to work and the stipulations. And the cost, if these things go through, basically are just going to cause more businesses to go out of business or be unable to function because they won't be able to have the employees there to do the job. So 2022 looks pretty bleak, and it has nothing to do with whether or not the outcome of the elections or a red wave or any of that stuff. Because remember, it doesn't matter who is in Congress and who's in the White House. This country is run by a corporatocracy and unelected bureaucrats. And in both of those instances, both the corporatocracy and both the unelected bureaucrats have millions of people working for them who all drank the Kool-Aid, basically, who are all on the same, basically, of the same mindset, generally speaking. It's a generalization. All right. So there's no individual or individuals or laws that can be passed. Look, the Congress, I'm sorry for running a little long here, but this is very important. I've talked about this before. The Constitution of the United States, the First Amendment, which basically says Congress shall make no law abridging, freedom of speech or to redress the government with grievances. Okay? That means me criticizing the government. I've got a grievance with the government. I should be able to, address the government, make that statement, okay, without being banned or whatever. And I also have freedom of speech. And not even Congress itself, it says, according to the Constitution, the First Amendment, can make a law abridging freedom of speech in any way. So how does social media get away with abridging somebody's freedom of speech or a statement they make questioning the government, redressing the government with a grievance act, because the terms of service or Section 230. No, that doesn't happen. Because they're a private company. It doesn't matter. When Bernie Madoff had a Ponzi scheme and broke the law, he went to jail. He was a private company. Okay? Enron was a private company. Okay, AT&T back in the old days was broken up because they had monopoly practices because they were a private company. If you break the laws of the land, it doesn't matter that you're a private company. And that's just people breaking laws, like, laws that were written by Congress. Okay, social media, okay, is breaking the Constitution of the United States, the very foundation, the First Amendment, okay, that even stipulates that not even Congress has the right to abridge freedom of speech, right? Not even Congress. In other words, there would have to be the states would have to get together and actually have an amendment to the Constitution to take away freedom of speech. You can't take it away with the Section 230 or the FCC can't do this or you can't say a private company, right? Where's the ACLU? In other words, according to, if you follow this same logic, corporations are free to commit murder, right? But we know that in the past, corporations have been prosecuted for criminal negligence. You could turn on the TV and you could see lawsuits by law firms against pharmaceutical companies because their particular drug or something caused death or illnesses to the people who took it. And you know that. You've seen those commercials. They're all over the place, right? Of course, the FDA approved those drugs originally. So how do you get away with saying, oh, but social media is... they're private companies? No. You see what I mean? How brainwashed are the American people? And going forward, if people are that far lost, right, that far brainwashed, what chance is there? And these people going, oh, we're going to have a red wave. We're going to change this. You had a red wave 5 years ago. And what happened? They impeached the guy 2 times and at every corner, whatever. And then eventually they elected Biden and there was a stack of executive orders. And the guy sitting there opening one up, signing it, moving the next. The guy signed I don't know, dozens and dozens just on his first day, taking away everything that the last guy did. And the last guy, it was like all Trump all the time on the news. And every step he turned, they just basically went against him. His own generals, the CIA, the FBI, they wouldn't prosecute. They wouldn't do this. So in other words, it's, back to the Einstein thing, doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. I think that was Einstein who said that. Wake up, people. It's crazy. And, the internet is broken and it's beyond repair. YouTube is broken and it's beyond repair. I mean, we can use this medium and stuff, but especially when it comes to your health and well-being and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, don't count on it. Don't trust it. All right? Don't trust it. And you say, well, why should I trust you? Well, because I'm not telling you anything. I'm a critic, social criticism. I'm telling you, I'm just like, I'm sounding the alarm. I'm saying, look, man, all right? I'm the town crier with the bell going, the internet's broken, and I just explained why. You can't trust it. It's contradictory. There's too many videos for algorithms or AI to solve. And if they did, I read you the AI. You can't trust AI. You can't trust algorithms. And you're going to immerse yourself into some metaverse? Oh, man. These are crazy times. I'm telling you, This
is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
This is insane.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You said it, Ducky. You said it.
Good morning.
All right, folks, that's it for the day. I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm so far feeling okay, so knock on wood. Let's hope it stays that way. Check out my site, rockflux.com, TonyCaravanLive.com. Get a copy of my book. Get a copy of Then What, but get a copy of Codex, too, because that's a great book. And great solar stuff will keep you if the power goes out. And, of course, you can see the Game Over shirt. All my shirts are available as hoodies, tees, collared shirts, all kinds of stuff's available. Just check it out. Supports the site. I'd appreciate it. Thanks. Take care. Have a great day.